Good morning, boys and girls and moms and dads. Thanks for joining with me today on this, the third weekend in Lent. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, and then I've got a story to read for you. I love Max Lucado's storybooks for kids, and we're going to be reading another one today. Do you know who you are? When I was growing up, I was one of 5 children. And I was known as son number 3. Son number 3. I came to know and understand that who I am is I am a son of Mary and Dick Richardson. But I also came to understand something else. So, at our deepest point in our lives, in our hearts, in our souls, who are you? Who am I? I say it all the time. A beloved child of God. The God who made us, the God who calls us by name, the God who knows us better than we know ourselves, the God who loves us forever, and the God who has designed us and created us to fulfill His purpose in our lives. This story is called A Hat for Ivan. Ivan was a happy boy. He lived in the town of Hatville, a place where everyone wore hats. Not just any hats. The doctors wore doctor hats. The cooks wore cooking hats. The farmers wore farming hats. Everyone wore hats, and Ivan's father was the hat maker, a very good hat maker. Ivan loved to watch his father work. People would come to his shop to order a hat, and Ivan's father would ask, "What do you really love to do?" One man said, "I love to fish." "Do you fish well?" "That I do." "Then you need a fishing hat." So Ivan's father would make it, complete with pocket for the hooks and a small bucket for the bait. He made everyone a hat. And since everyone wore a hat, everyone knew what everyone else loved to do and did well. Want some flowers? Talk to the lady with roses on her head. Need directions? Ask for the man with a hat made from a map. Wondering how to fix a fence? Look for the fellow who wears a hat shaped like a hammer. Everyone wore hats, and Ivan's dad made their hats. Could anything be better than that? Well, one thing could. Getting your own hat. And Ivan was about to receive his first hat. At the age of 10, each boy and girl celebrated Hat Day. Ivan was 9, going on 10 soon. He could hardly wait to get his hat. What will mine look like, he wondered. Would it be made of felt, like the clerks, bright blue, like the policeman's, covered with cloth, like the dressmakers? He didn't know, but he would find out soon. All Ivan could think about was his new hat. All he could talk about was his new hat. He told everyone he saw, "My hat day is coming." The people in Hatville were excited for Ivan. Some people had their own ideas about what kind of hat he should wear. Felix the baker certainly did. Ivan passed Felix's bakery every morning on the way to school. And every morning Ivan stopped in the doorway and smelled the baking bread. He couldn't always see Felix. See, Felix was short and round like the cookies he baked. But he could always see Felix's bobbing hat. It was tall and white, like the wedding cakes that he made. One day when Ivan stopped by for a sniff, Felix was waiting for him. "I hear you are about to get your hat," he smiled at the young boy. "I am," Ivan replied with pride. "Well, I have a surprise for you. Come on in." And with that, the baker stepped back into the shop and Ivan followed. What could the surprise be? A donut? Maybe some cookie dough? No. Felix didn't give Ivan something to eat, he gave him something to wear. "I have a hat for you," announced Felix the baker. Ivan was surprised, not disappointed, not happy, just surprised. He thought his hat would come from his father, the hat maker. But then again, maybe he was wrong. Besides, Ivan didn't want to hurt his friend's feelings. "Well, thank you, Mr. Felix," Ivan said, taking the hat. "Go ahead, put it on." So Ivan put it on. But it was too big. It fell not just over his eyes, but over his whole face. "That's okay, little friend, it'll soon fit. Just wear it anyway." Ivan didn't know what to say except, "Thanks again." And he turned to walk out the door, but when he did, he ran into the wall. "Here, I'll help you," offered Felix, guiding his friend to the door. "You look great, just like me." Ivan started to say thanks again, but he tripped on the step and fell flat on his back. "Funny," he said to himself, "I thought my new hat would fit better than this." Since he walked the same path to school every morning, Ivan was able to feel his way down the street. Soon the scent of daisies and roses told him he was getting near the flower shop. When he heard the hammers pounding, he knew he was near the carpenter shop. The sound of music told him he was passing Miss Anita's piano studio. Miss Anita loved music. Miss Anita loved Ivan. Ivan's father had made her a special hat, wide and round with tiny guitars on top and piano strings dangling from the brim. Since each string had a bell on the end, everyone knew when Miss Anita was near them. It was a different sort of hat, but it was perfect for Miss Anita. No one else would ever want to wear it, but Miss Anita wouldn't be without it. She loved the hat, she loved Ivan, and she loved it when he stopped by to hear her play. Of course, on this day, she didn't recognize him. All she saw was a tall hat on a small boy. "Who are you?" she asked. From within the hat came a muffled voice. "It's me, Miss Anita, it's Ivan." He heard her quick steps on the wooden floor. "That's not the hat for you," she declared as she yanked it off his head. "It's not?" he replied. "Of course not. There's only one hat for you." Suddenly Miss Anita disappeared into her studio and came out with a very different looking hat. "I made this just for you. I've been working on it for days. Here, try it on." Ivan was surprised, not happy, not disappointed, just surprised. He'd never seen a hat like this one. "Funny," Ivan said to himself. "Miss Anita is a good musician, but she's not a good hat maker." A piccolo dangled from the side, and sheet music was glued to the top. Bells and whistles hung in front of Ivan's face, and a drumstick dangled like a ponytail on his back. "It looks perfect," Miss Anita declared. "This hat was made just for you." Ivan smiled. The music teacher turned and walked back into the studio, pleased with herself. But now Ivan had two hats, one in his hand, one on his head, and he didn't feel like wearing either one, but he didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. He didn't know what else to do except keep walking to school. But the hat maker's son was barely down the street when he met a new problem. "Ivan!" The voice was deep and big and belonged to Bruno the firefighter. "What is that on your head?" "Miss Anita gave it to me." "As a joke?" "No, for real." "It's a good thing I came along. I knew your hat day was near, so I brought you a gift." For the third time that day, a hat was placed on Ivan's head. This hat was just like Bruno's, long and red and very shiny. A piece of fire hose was wrapped around it, and a miniature ladder stood straight up on top. The big fireman held the hat steady while Ivan tightened the strap beneath his chin. "Now that's what I call a hat," Bruno boomed in his deep voice. Ivan stepped back, and when he did, he fell over. The hat was so tall and heavy that the boy couldn't keep his balance. Bruno helped him up, stepped back, and Ivan fell again. "You'll get used to it, Ivan," Bruno told him. "I did." With that, Bruno turned to leave. Ivan tried and tried to stand, but kept falling backwards. He stepped back as fast as he could until his back was against a wall. "Thanks, Mr. Bruno," he shouted, although he didn't feel very thankful. Funny, Ivan thought to himself again. It's easy for Bruno to wear this big hat, but it's so hard for me. What he did feel was confused. When he had left the house, he had no hats. Now he has three, and he didn't like any of them. With one, he couldn't see. With the other, he didn't want to be seen. And with the third, he couldn't stand up. What was he going to do? He didn't know what to do except keep on going to school. So with one hand holding the heavy hat on his head, one hand holding the others, he carefully walked the rest of the way. Things didn't get any better at school. In fact, they got worse. His hats interrupted the class. If he wore the baker's hat, everyone chuckled. If he wore the musical hat, it made too much noise. He tried to keep Bruno's hat on his head, but he kept falling off his chair. Ivan, the teacher finally decided, maybe you better just go home. Ivan was sad, but he knew she was right. He still didn't know what to do. He had too many hats. And on the way home, he was given many more. The farmer gave him a straw hat with a bandana to keep the sun off. The beekeeper gave him a netted hat to keep the bees out. The woodsman gave him a wool cap to keep his ears warm. A clown gave him a cone hat with many colors, and the bookshop owner gave him a hat shaped like a dictionary. Ivan soon had so many hats that he could barely carry them all. He would drop one, and when he bent over to pick it up, he'd drop another. He finally had them balanced when all of a sudden, he saw Felix the baker. Oh no, he thought, I'm wearing the farmer's hat. So he dropped them all and just barely got the baker's hat on his head and over his eyes when Felix saw him. Looks great, shouted Felix. Ivan sounded tired. Thanks. Balancing the hats were hard enough, but now Ivan's eyes were covered as he walked. He couldn't see where he was going. He had to stop. He had stopped to rest when he heard the tinkling of tiny bells. Oh no, it's Miss Anita. Ivan pulled off the baker's hat and threw on the musical hat just in time. And Miss Anita exclaimed as she passed by, "Oh, Ivan, you look wonderful." Ivan started picking up the rest of the hats when he heard the deep voice of Bruno. "Ivan, is that you?" As quickly as he could, Ivan replaced the musical hat with a firefighter's hat. "It's me," he said, straightening, then falling back and back and back until he landed on his bottom. Bruno didn't see Ivan fall. He was already turning around the corner. "Looks terrific, my friend," Bruno called over his shoulder. "Thanks." Ivan mumbled to no one but himself. He was so tired, he didn't even try to get up. He just sat there, surrounded by hats. Looks like you've had quite a day." Ivan couldn't remember when a voice ever sounded so good. "Father!" he shouted, jumping up. "You won't believe what happened to me today. Everybody gave me a hat and none of them fit." Ivan's father spoke up. "That's right," said the boy. "And they make you tired?" Ivan nodded. "But you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings?" Ivan shook his head. His father put his arm around his son. "That's right." Ivan stopped. But how did you know?" "Well, I am the hat maker, Ivan. And I've seen what happens when people wear hats they weren't intended to wear. They feel silly, they fall down, and they get tired." Ivan's father got down on his knees and wiped a smudge of dirt off his son's cheek. "Listen, Ivan, just because someone gives you a hat, that doesn't mean you're supposed to wear it. They mean well, but they don't know you. That's my job. I'm your father, and I'm the hat maker. So you'll make a hat just for me?" "I will. All you have to do is ask." "Oh, please, Father," Ivan smiled. "I would like it very much if you'd make a hat for me." "Well, let's gather up these hats and go home then." So as the hat maker and his son walked toward home, the father asked Ivan, "Tell me, Ivan, what do you really love to do?" Thanks for joining with me. May God's peace and blessing be upon you in this week.